1 verse 9. I read it in the NLT. And it reads, "We would have healed, it's like, yeah, we would have helped her if we could, but nothing can save her now. Let her go, abandon her. Return now to your own land, for her punishment reaches to the heavens. It is so great it cannot be measured."
You deserve better. You deserve to be able to raise your family here, to be safe, to travel where you need to, free of costs and worry. You deserve someone who works as hard as you do, who thinks about you every second of the day. That's the kind of mayor I promise to be. New York, will you accept this rose?
Unfortunately, enough voters, most of them foreign born, by the way, said yes. What they don't know yet, though, is that Mamdani, the rose, is poisonous. New Yorkers may think they voted for progress, but they should prepare for Mamdani-style punishment. Now, socialists promise affordability, but they're going to deliver scarcity. They promise dignity, but they'll deliver disappointment. And of course, they promise dialogue, but they'll stamp out dissent. Neither Mamdani, nor AOC, nor Bernie Sanders like to mention the godfather of socialism much. Of course, we're talking about Karl Marx.
Alright, Shalom, Sensei Sharola, Kal, Halimla, Allahayanawa, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashai, Bahasham Rachaha Kodesh. My name is Gabago of the Hopeful Election from the Company of Prophets in Toronto, and today is Sunday, November the 9th. Okay, another day closer to the deliverance of the elect of Israel and the destruction of Babylon the Great, aka America. Okay, and as it stands, as you can see, any day now, all hell could break loose. Okay, because ultimately, every day that continues on, we coming closer and closer to that fateful day. Okay, the day with Jacob's trouble. Okay, a day like never before. Okay, ultimately, America, aka Babylon the Great, is at its wit's end. Okay, America, is finished, is done. Okay, now this video that I just played, basically you had this man, Zoran Mamdani, that got elected into the mayoral office in New York City. Who's going to be the new mayor of New York starting next year in January. Okay, and he got an overwhelming amount of support because basically people are trying to find a different way. Basically, people are trying to choose a different path, to see if they can be successful. Okay, which socialism was something that Mamdani was riding on. Okay, basically he was, his whole campaign was about taking power away from the from the from the big government and giving it to the people. Okay, basically and also at the same time too, bringing about the socialism movement to where things are shared. Okay, and basically you know people are not taking advantage of the poor. Because ultimately, that's what the people in America have been experiencing. Okay, the poor continue to be exploited. Okay, and now this man comes up with the answers. Okay, comes up with the solution, which is socialism. Socialism. When you go into socialism, let's go ahead and look it up. Socialism, it's like, yeah. Socialism. It says a political and economical theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Okay, this is ultimately not scriptural. Okay, this is not going to work. Okay, nothing that Israel comes up with, what they be socialism, communism, capitalism, and all of these things have worked because ultimately the so-called white man is a wicked man. At the same time, too, the thing about it is like you can't really force people to give out their own position. Okay, that's wickedness. That's tyranny. Okay, and that's ultimately what these people think. They think that Mamdan is going to come in and ultimately restore back power to the people and distribute wealth. So therefore there's no gap between the rich and the poor, but really it's going to take away the list that you have and take away more of your rights. That's ultimately what it's about. So therefore you won't own anything. The things that you have, the government can come in and take them and distribute them to whoever. And when they come and take them, they can, you can decide, it's not up to you who they give it to. So they come in and take your position, and ultimately, saying that, in the name of socialism, saying that they're going to help out other people, but really, they just take it to themselves. Ultimately, you got to remember that the man in power is Israel. Okay, and they cannot never do right. That's why I brought a scripture right here. Okay, so basically, like anything that America tries comes up with is not going to work. Let me go here again. Jeremiah 51 verse 9, and it reads in the NLT once again, and it reads, "We would have helped her if we could." They heard talking about America. Okay, Babylon the Great. Okay, she's known as the whore, the great whore, right? So it's feminine. So ultimately, America is nothing but basically it's like a big mother city, a big metropolis. Right? It says we would have helped her, but it's like we would have helped her if we could, but nothing can save her now. Why is that? Because ultimately America, is at its wit's end. Okay, nothing that they come up with is going to work, right? They've tried. They've been. America has basically tried all the tricks that they have in the book. Okay, and nothing is working because ultimately the people that's in power, they are wicked, they are evil, they are vindictive. Okay, and they literally want everything for themselves. Okay, using all these all these tricks, basically how the people buy into their tricks, socialism, communism, all right, and all these other doctrines to basically appeal to the people, but nothing that they do is going to work. And I will show you. It says we would have helped her if we would have helped her if we could, but nothing can save her now. Let her go, abandon her, return now to your own land, for her punishment reaches to the heavens. It is so great it cannot be measured. That's really in the KJV. It says, "We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country, for judgment reacheth unto heaven, and it is lifted up to the skies." Okay, and show you that America, you know, uh, it cannot be fixed because ultimately the person that's in power is wicked. So-called white man, Esau Edom, is the one that's in power, and they cannot do anything right. Okay, let's go ahead and get this in the KJV. Try this way. Yeah, can right here. Jeremiah 13 verse 23. And it reads, "Can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots? Then may he also do good that are accustomed to do evil." Can America, Babylon the Great, it is accustomed to do evil because ultimately the people that's in power are wicked. Okay, they're vile and they're evil. Okay, everything that they come up with ultimately is to oppress the people and to take more of your rights and continue to take away from the poor. Okay, this has not changed. As you can see, the cost of living continues to rise. Okay, and the gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen. Okay, and this man is not going to change that by bringing in socialism. If anything, it's actually going to speed it up because this man is not bringing is going to bring in his policies, and with these policies, basically they want to take away your right to ownership, and basically in the name of socialism, and they're going to take it and distribute it to whoever they will, right? So this is only good to bring in more of a divide between the rich and the poor, and so actually going to increase that. It says, then may he do. So it says, can the Ethiopian change his skin? And the Ethiopians, these are so-called dark skin. When you go to the word Ethiopia, okay, I believe it's a Greek word which means dark skin, right? Let's look it up. Yes, it says Kawashaya, Kushi or Ethiopian, see Kushan, their blackness, right? So ultimately, this is talking about, the real, you know, Africans, okay, the Africans, which will be, the seed of Ham, okay, the Kush was one of them, which Kush are known as Ethiopians, okay, and they're known to be, they basically, they don't have dark skin. They have darker skin, but, you also have like light skin ones, but really, these are Hamites, right? And therefore, when you look at these Hamites, they all really have they tend to be of the same hue, the same color. So they can't change their skin. Okay, they can't they can't they're known everywhere because ultimately they have a certain skin color to them. Okay, that they just when you see them, you know that's an Ethiopian, right? It says, or the leopard his parts, and the leopard cannot change his parts either. And then it says, then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. And that's a rhetorical question. Okay, so Edom is accustomed to do evil, and therefore all the policies that he brings across are not going to, they're only going to bring about, evil, which means bad times. Okay, let's get in the book of Ecclesiastes 7 verse 13. So it says, precept. It says, consider the work of the Most High, for who can make that straight which he had made crooked. That's right. So Edom was made crooked. Okay, and all his policies, capitalism, socialism, okay, communism, all of these things, they're all crooked. Because ultimately, it is the wicked. Okay, go and get this. It's like let's get this the book of Ecclesiasticus, Sirach. Let's see, try this way. No, that's not it. Let's look it up on the Google. Yeah, kind of right here. Ecclesiasticus 39 verse 27. Let's go to that. 39 verse 27. Yeah, kind of right here. And it reads, Sirach 39 verse 27, and it reads all these stuff verse 26. Ecclesiasticus 39 verse 26, and it reads, the principal things for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil and clothing. And all these things that are essential for life. Okay, you have, of course, you have water. You need water, fire to cook, to get warm, to purify things. Iron, you need that for, for cooking, for defense, for weaponry. Okay, for even for like protection. And salt, definitely salt. Flour, you need flour for food. Okay, for wheat, flour of wheat, yeah. Honey, right? You need honey to sweeten things. Milk, you need milk, and specifically, goat milk or sheep's milk, and the blood of the grape, which is wine, right? And the oil, you need oil for, for cooking, for for your skin, for all kinds of things, right? For diseases, for healing, and clothing. You need clothing, to keep warm, to cover up. So all these things are necessary for life. And it says the next verse, all these things are good for the are all these things are good for it's like all these things are for good to the godly. So to the sinners they are turned into evil. The man of sin is known as the so-called white man, it's Edom. So he turns all these things into evil. It turns all these things basically he weaponizes them to come against you. Okay, so now same thing with basically in scriptures you have socialism, like for example there's scripture. Okay, when the rich man came to Yahushua and asked him, what can he do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? And Yahushua told him to go sell all that he had and give it to the poor. So that's a form of socialism, but this is voluntary socialism. Does not control socialism. Okay, there's a difference. There's a difference. Okay, socialism in the scriptures, this was voluntarily. Okay, people basically, they give up their own, they give up their goods and their wealth, willingly. Okay, voluntarily. It was not forced, and that's the difference. Okay, but this man, is gonna come in and try to force good. Okay, trying to force things, but we know that, as we read earlier, okay, can the Ethiopian change his skin, or the leopard his spots, and so neither can he that is accustomed to do evil do good. This so-called Mamdani, okay, even though he's not really you know per se an Edom, but he was shaped and basically groomed by Esau. You see, that's why they get their talking points from their ways of thinking, like Karl Marx, for example, which is socialism, and there's nothing about tyranny. Okay, basically, you won't have any like one of the tenets of the New World Order is that you will own nothing and be happy. So that's really what they're trying to bring about. They're gonna be they'll have it to where you won't have any ownership of your property. So it's gonna be all about communism. Everyone basically everyone get the right to your stuff. But really, it's really it's going to be the government that gets the right to your stuff.
But Marx believed a truly classless society required three things: one, abolishing private property; two, centralizing the means of production; and three, crushing dissent.
Yeah, abolishing property. Okay, basically the government is going to come in and take away your rights into what you have, right? You had that example happened in the scriptures actually too. When you had that wicked King Ahab, Jezebel. Go ahead and get that. There's an example here. Let's go ahead and get this example. Book of First Kings, um, 21. Type in Naboth. Yeah. So sophomore first verse. So First Kings 21 verse 1. I just gonna get straight to the point. It says, "And it came to pass after these things that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard which was in Jezreel." Okay, hard hard by the palace. It's like a hard by the palace of Ahab's hard by the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. And Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, Give me thy vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give thee for it by a better vineyard. I'll give it for I'll give it thee for it a better vineyard than it. Or if it seem good to thee, I will give thee worth of it money. This was what King Ahab was trying to do. Then you had his wicked wife Jezebel. Jezebel was actually, she was a Hamite. Okay, the father of Ahab, Omri, basically made a covenant with the Hamites, and he had his son Ahab marry a Hamite a princess, Jezebel, and she brought nothing but folly in Israel, man. So we're going to say, so basically, when you go to the story, basically, like Ahab wanted to take over Naboth's vineyard, his land, but Naboth was not willing to part with it. Then his wicked wife Jezebel came in and basically made a scheme to have it to where he took it by force, right? It says so what point was 14 says then they sent to Jezebel saying Naboth is stoned and is dead. And it came to pass when Jezebel had heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee for money, for Naboth is not alive but dead. You see, so right there, this could be like a form of like, forced socialism. This is a forced socialism, forced, where the government comes in and takes your property by force. So basically, and they're gonna do this in the name of socialism. This is a wicked thing. Okay, so this example. Let me go ahead and get the example of Yahushai, right? Exactly. Let's do this way. Yeah, sorry, so in the book of Luke 18, verse 18, and it reads, And a certain ruler asked him, saying, Good master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? Verse 19, And Yahushua said unto him, Why callest thou me good? None is good save one, that is the Most High. So Lord Yahushua, the people would always try to basically that's another thing too about, you know, um, taking praise from men. You're not supposed to take praise from men. Ultimately, these people are wicked, man. They do things to seem like they're trying to praise you, but really they're trying to put you trying to put you in a bind. So Lord Yahushua was quick with that. He was quick to rebuke that that false praise from that nigger. It says, though thou knowest the commandments, do not commit adultery, do not kill, do not steal, do not bear false witness, honor thy father and mother. And she said, all these have I kept from my youth up. Now when Yahushua had heard these things, he said unto him, yet lackest thou one thing. Sell all that thou hast and distribute unto the poor. So now this will be a form of righteous socialism. But this ultimately, this is all by choice. Okay, basically, like you volunteer this on your own or on your own accord. It's not a big government coming in to force you to do this, right? So sell all that you sell all that thou hast and distribute unto the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come follow me, right? And when he had heard this, he was very sorrowful, and for he was rich. Ultimately, he was not really willing to part with his wealth. But Yahushua didn't force him to do it. Yahushua didn't tell him or he didn't basically it was not by force. He used to have the account in the book of Acts, where the apostles and and the disciples and the believers, they basically voluntarily gave up all that they had and they shared amongst each other. But once again, that was all about on their own accord. Okay, but this man is trying to bring in that forced socialism.
Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani getting ready to take over Gracie Mansion and City Hall in the Big Apple, America's largest city, and he will start that job on January 1. As a poll shows, lots of support for socialism among Democrats across the country. 66% of Democrats say they have a positive view of
That's that number again, that that magic number, 666. That's two thirds. That's another telltale sign, to know that this man is this is the number of the wicked. Okay, the number of the beast. Okay, that's 666, right?
socialism compared to 42% who feel that way about capitalism, according to Gallup. With that, we bring in anti-communist activist Xi Fleet, a survivor of China's Cultural Revolution, sent to work in the countryside when she was 16 years old. After Mao died, she went to college to learn English and has lived in the United States since 1986. We all remember your very strong statements as the statues were being pulled down in this country in 2021 about what you recognized and what you saw that looked very much like communist China. What's your reaction to this election in New York?
Yeah, what I have to say is 39 years ago, I escaped communism to come to America for freedom. And 30 years later, I see communists defeated capitalism. It's absolutely unbelievable that the New Yorkers choose a socialist and communist to be their mayor.
So right there, this woman right here says she escaped China. Okay, China is all about communism and socialism. Okay, she escaped that to come to America because America was about capitalism, right? But now, that capitalism has lost onto communism and socialism. So she knows what she's experienced that in her homeland in China. That's ultimately why she left. But now, uh, she's in New York, and now she's having to face the same thing that she's trying to run away from. That goes to show you that, you know, the same way the reason why she escaped it's because it was oppressive, but now she's here in New York, in America, and it's only going to get even more oppressive. Ultimately, Israel, is going to perfect it's going to perfect it. Okay, let's go ahead and get this. Look at Jeremiah 49 verse 7. It reads, concerning Edom, Edom is a so-called white nation, or it's like a so-called white race. Okay, Edom in the Hebrew means Adawam, which means red. The so-called white man, he's red. He's not white. Concerning Edom, thus said the Lord Yahweh Shai of hosts, is wisdom no more in Timan. Timan will be the so-called Germans. Okay, because ultimately, that's where, for the most part, Esau Edom, this is the brain power of Esau Edom. Them Germans, they come up with the most of the technology. Okay, most of the the philosophies, Okay, this is where Esau gets his, the brain power is from teaming. Okay, it's the Germans, right? That's actually, even the guy Klaus Schwab, he already knows the German. Okay, his wisdom no more in teaming, meaning what? Basically, these Edomites, they're losing. Okay, they don't have the wits anymore. They don't have the wits about them anymore. Okay, basically they're trying everything they're trying, everything they're bringing, everything that they're suggesting to solve it, to bring as a solution is not working out. Okay, all the answers, they're following, they're not bearing any fruit. It says its counsel perished from the prudent. Is their wisdom vanished? And ultimately, that's what we're seeing. Okay, ultimately, if the thing that this man is trying, okay, before, it was, it was all about capitalism. Okay, now it's trying about socialism. Okay, communism. Okay, this definitely is not gonna work. Ultimately, the only thing that's gonna work is when Lord Yahushua comes back, take away this man out of power, and ultimately establish his kingdom. Let's go ahead and get that. That's what we prophesy about. We prophesy about Lord Yahushua. Okay. Yeah, kind of right here. Ecclesiasticus 10 verse 4, right? Some verse 3. And it reads, an unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. Okay, and an unwise king is Esau Edom. You already have, that cruel lord, which is Trump himself. Okay, as you can see, he's destroying his people. Okay, the people are suffering under this man's rulership. Okay, the government is still shut down. Okay, people are not haven't still gotten the benefits and all these things. So an unwise king destroyed his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. So that's why you need people that are wise. Prudent mean basically, prudent is someone that looks ahead and does things with wisdom. Okay, but that's not Esau Edom. Esau Edom is doing everything, based on his lust. Verse 4, the power of the earth is in the hand of the Lord, Yahushai, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. That's the Lord Yahushai, which is the so-called black man. Okay, Yahushai is going to come back and restore and basically like heal, bring back the healing, bring back righteousness, and ultimately, put an end to wickedness and iniquity and evil. Okay, bring about an era of peace. Okay, which that's what the world desperately needs. Okay. قدام أقول ده ونسيب براتي هوا براتي وشاي بس كم شر والله و أباد ببال شلوم تلد شلوم أكيم